Bristol, located in England and nestled alongside the River Avon, holds the distinction of being a city, ceremonial county, and unitary authority. Known for its appealing qualities, Bristol consistently receives recognition as one of the top places to live in the UK. Notably, it proudly holds the title of the exclusive European Green Capital. Situated within the United Kingdom, the city's strategic position ensures convenient access to urban amenities, picturesque countryside, and a welcoming coastline. When it comes to safety, Bristol maintains a reported violent crime rate of 32.8 incidents per 1,000 working individuals annually. This place is the 38th lowest crime rate among the 99 postcode areas in England and Wales, highlighting Bristol's dedication to fostering a secure and desirable living environment. However, Bristol is not completely immune to all dangers. In 2010, just before Christmas, the tragic story of 25-year-old Joanna Yeates unfolded. Joanna Claire Yeates, a British woman, was born on April 19, 1985. Her proud parents, David and Teresa Yeates, welcomed her into their family in Hampshire, England. Joanna had the privilege of receiving her education in a private setting at Embley Park near Romsey. She had a supportive brother named Chris, who accompanied her on her life's journey. Joanna pursued her A-levels at Peter Simons College, demonstrating her commitment to academic excellence. She then ventured into higher education and obtained a degree in landscape architecture from Riddle College. Not content with just an undergraduate education, Joanna furthered her academic pursuits by earning a postgraduate diploma in landscape architecture from the University of Gloucestershire. Her educational journey not only showcased her dedication to learning, but also highlighted her passion for her chosen field. In December 2008, Joanna, a 23-year-old professional at the prestigious firm Highland Edgar Driver in Winchester, crossed paths with Greg Reardon, a 25-year-old architect. Their professional relationship soon turned into a personal connection, leading them to make the significant decision of moving in together in 2009. As their romantic journey progressed, Joanna and Greg relocated to Bristol due to work commitments. Joanna, showcasing her versatility, later transitioned to a position at the Building Design Partnership in Bristol, marking a new chapter in her professional endeavors. In October 2010, Joanna and Greg settled into a residence at 44 Canning Road in the Clifton suburb of Bristol. This particular abode, situated within a larger house that had been divided into flats, became their shared haven. However, just 3 months later, tragedy struck. On the evening of December 19, 2010, Greg returned to their flat after a weekend visit to Sheffield, only to find Joanna missing. Despite her personal belongings, including her mobile phone and keys, being left behind, Joanna was nowhere to be found. Concerned and panicked, Greg reached out to the police and Joanna's parents to report her missing shortly after midnight. This marked the beginning of a distressing chapter for Joanna's loved ones. Prompted by a community-wide endeavor to unravel the enigma surrounding her abrupt vanishing, subsequent to a comprehensive inquiry, it was determined that Joanna had spent the evening of Friday, December 17, 2010, in the company of her colleagues at the Bristol Ram pub located on Park Street. Despite departing the establishment at approximately 8 p.m. and embarking on a 30-minute walk home, she never reached her apartment that fateful night. Joanna's acquaintances and co-workers informed the investigators that she had no desire to spend the upcoming weekend alone, as Greg would not return until late Sunday, December 19, 2010. They also disclosed that, aside from engaging in Christmas shopping, Joanna had made arrangements to occupy her time with baking preparations for an upcoming party she and Greg had planned to host the following week. The detectives managed to trace Joanna's movements from that evening to a Waitrose supermarket. Notably, surveillance footage captured Joanna exiting the supermarket at around 8:10 p.m. without making any purchases. Subsequently, at 8:30 p.m., she reached out to her closest friend, Rebecca Scott, to discuss their plans for Christmas Eve. The subsequent visual evidence of Joanna depicted her acquiring a pizza from a Tesco Express branch at approximately 8:40 p.m. Additionally, she purchased 2 small bottles of cider from a nearby off-license, Bargain Booze. These details offered a glimpse into the final moments of Joanna's evening before the mysterious circumstances surrounding her disappearance unfolded. In an endeavor to locate Joanna, her circle of friends and Greg took proactive measures, establishing a dedicated website and utilizing social networking services to aid in the search for her. On December 21, 2010, Joanna's parents and Greg jointly made a public appeal for her safe return during a police press conference. In a subsequent press conference broadcasted live on December 23, 2010, by both Sky News and BBC News, David and Teresa Yates, Joanna's parents, spoke about her mysterious disappearance and voiced their suspicions that Joanna might have been abducted. Despite David's uncertainty about the exact circumstances surrounding her disappearance, he shared his belief that she may have been taken after returning to her flat. David Yates firmly believed that Joanna would not have willingly left her belongings behind and suggested that she must have been forcibly taken elsewhere. Detectives launched an investigation into the perplexing situation. Upon searching the apartment, detectives did not find any traces of the pizza Joanna had bought, but both bottles of cider she purchased were found in the flat, with one of them partially consumed. With no signs of forced entry or struggle, investigators started considering the possibility that Joanna may have been acquainted with her abductor. The distressing events unfolded further when on December 25, 2010, a fully clothed body was found in the snow along Longwood Lane near a golf course at the entrance of a quarry in Fayland. The location was approximately 3 miles away from Joanna's home. Police officially identified the body as that of 25-year-old Joanna Claire Yates. Visiting the discovery site on December 27, 2010, both Greg and Joanna's family came to terms with the grim reality. David Yates, Joanna's father, acknowledged the family's mental preparation for the worst and expressed some relief that Joanna's body had been located. However, funeral arrangements were momentarily postponed as investigators needed to conduct further examinations on the body. The unfolding story of Joanna's disappearance and tragic discovery marked a deeply sorrowful chapter for those who were close to her. In light of the increased vulnerability felt within the community, local authorities have issued orders advising residents to secure their homes and cautioning women against walking alone after dark. Known as Operation Braid, this extensive investigative effort to apprehend Joanna's killer involves a formidable team of 80 detectives and civilian staff, led by Detective Chief Inspector Phil Jones. As the head of Avon and Somerset Constabulary's Major Crime Investigation Unit, Detective Chief Inspector Jones is a seasoned officer with a wealth of experience. This operation is considered one of the most significant police endeavors in the constabulary's history. Detective Chief Inspector Jones has appealed to the public for any information that may assist in capturing the perpetrator. Witnesses who were in the vicinity of Longwood Lane in Fayland prior to the discovery of Joanna's body are of particular interest to the detectives. Inspector Jones emphasizes the importance of community engagement and expresses gratitude for the overwhelming number of tips received from citizens. Every lead and location provided is being diligently pursued by the officers. To draw more attention to Joanna's case, Crime Stoppers has offered a £10,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the murderer. The Sun newspaper has also contributed to the cause by offering a £50,000 reward. Despite his doubts that the perpetrator will voluntarily come forward, Joanna's father, David, remains hopeful and trusts in the dedication of the police force to eventually apprehend the responsible individual. Detectives from the Avon and Somerset Constabulary are comparing Joanna's case with other similar ones to determine if there are any connections. Their attention was focused on cases like the strangulation of 20-year-old Glenys Carruthers in 1974, the disappearance and subsequent discovery of 25-year-old Melanie Hall's body 13 years later in 1996, and the mysterious vanishing of 35-year-old Claudia Lawrence in 2009. Melanie Hall's case garnered the most interest due to the striking similarities it shared with Joanna's case, their age, physical appearance, and the fact that both disappeared shortly after returning home from socializing with friends. While initial suspicions pointed towards potential connections, authorities later dismissed this theory. Surveillance footage was gathered from Clifton Suspension Bridge, a crucial part of the shortest route from the crime scene to the Clifton suburb where Joanna was last seen alive. Unfortunately, the video quality was poor, making it difficult to identify individuals or read license plate numbers. Investigators believed that the perpetrator may have chosen a different bridge south of the River Avon, less than a mile away, to avoid being captured on CCTV cameras. Although the post-mortem examination commenced on December 26, 2010, the release of results was delayed due to the frozen condition of the body. Initially, police considered the possibility that Joanna Yates had died from exposure to cold weather, as there were no visible signs of injury on her body. However, on December 28, 2010, investigators officially classified the case as a murder investigation. The pathologist conducting the autopsy concluded that Joanna had died from strangulation and indicated that she had passed away several days before being found. It was confirmed that Joanna did not consume the pizza she had purchased. Detective Chief Inspector Jones stated that there was no evidence uncovered to suggest that Joanna had been sexually assaulted. As part of the routine investigation, the police examined Greg Reardon's laptop computer and mobile phone. Greg was subsequently cleared as a suspect and was considered a witness. Detectives were able to gather crucial information from various witnesses. A young woman who attended a party near Canning Road on the night Joanna went missing remembered hearing two loud screams shortly after 9 p.m. The screams seemed to come from Joanna's apartment. Another neighbor behind Joanna's house heard a woman's voice calling for help, although the exact time of the incident was uncertain. To investigate the possibility of the perpetrator entering the flat before Joanna returned home on December 17, 2010, investigators removed the front door of Joanna's residence to search for clothing fibers and DNA evidence. On December 30th, 2010, at around 7 a.m., Christopher Jeffries, Joanna's landlord who lived in the same building, was arrested on suspicion of her murder. While forensic investigators examined his flat, he was taken to a local police station for questioning. A senior police officer granted a 12-hour extension to the arrest for further questioning. Several extension requests were approved on December 31st, 2010, and January 1st, 2011. Despite being allowed to detain him as a suspect for up to 96 hours, Jeffries was released on bail after 2 days. He sought legal representation from the law firm Stokoe Partnership during this time. Senior officers in the investigation sought help from the National Policing Improvement Agency, an organization specializing in challenging cases. To improve the investigation, a clinical forensic psychologist with experience as a criminal profiler in murder cases joined the team on January 4, 2011, with the aim of narrowing down the list of potential suspects. Detective Chief Inspector Jones confirmed that his team had followed up on more than 1,000 leads and was committed to solving the crime and bringing the culprits to justice. He revealed on January 5, 2011, that one of Joanna Yates' socks was missing when her body was found, and it had not been located at the crime scene or in her home. To gather more information, the police launched a national advertising campaign, utilizing social media platforms such as Facebook. Within a day of its launch on January 4th, the campaign's page received almost 250,000 views, while CCTV footage of Joanna on YouTube had 120,000 views by January 5th, 2011. The authorities aimed to increase public awareness and engagement in the hopes of uncovering vital information that could assist in solving the case. On January 9th, Kerry McCarthy, the Member of Parliament for Bristol East, voiced her support for the idea of a public DNA screening process if recommended by the police. She referenced a previous case from 1995 when mass DNA screening was conducted by the Avon and Somerset Constabulary during the investigation into the disappearance of Lewis Smith. McCarthy suggested expanding the screening beyond Clifton to encompass the wider Bristol area. Authorities analyzed the DNA recovered from Joanna Yates' body, to potentially develop a profile. Furthermore, detectives began tracking the movements of several hundred registered sex offenders living within their jurisdiction to determine their whereabouts on December 17, 2010, the day Joanna went missing. On the morning of January 20, 2011, Vincent Tabak, a 32-year-old architectural engineer residing in the flat next to Joanna with his girlfriend, was taken into custody. However, no further details were disclosed during the suspect's interrogation by authorities due to concerns about the controversial media coverage following Christopher Jeffries' arrest. Tabak's arrest resulted from an anonymous tip given by a female caller shortly after Joanna's parents made a televised appeal on Crime Watch, a popular television show featuring the United Kingdom's top detectives working together to solve major murder cases. To aid in the investigation, the police closed Canninger Road and put up scaffolding around Joanna's house. At the same time, Tabak's neighboring flat was sealed off by officers. Additionally, the investigators searched a friend's townhouse, where Tabak was believed to have been staying approximately a mile away. It is worth noting that Tabak had previously been ruled out as a suspect during an earlier phase of the investigation and had returned to the UK from a family visit in the Netherlands. While Tabak was under investigation in January 2011, a reenactment of Joanna's case was already being filmed in Bristol for the BBC programme Crime Watch, with plans to air the episode on January 26, 2011. To recreate the snowy conditions during Joanna Yates' disappearance, a specialized film industry firm was hired. The filming of Joanna's final movements occurred on January 18, 2011. Within 24 hours of the news coverage about the production, over 300 individuals contacted the police, leading investigators to suspect that Joanna's body may have been transported in a large suitcase. However, after Vincent Tabak's arrest, the BBC decided not to broadcast the reenactment of Joanna's case on Crime Watch. Nevertheless, previously unreleased photos of Joanna were made available to the public through the program's website on January 31st, following the cancellation of the episode's broadcast. In order to strengthen the evidence of Tabak's involvement in Joanna's murder, DNA tests were carried out by LGC Forensics, a private company specializing in forensic analysis for criminal investigations. Lindsay Lennon, a specialist in body fluids and DNA analysis, stated that although the DNA swabs matched Tabak, the quality was insufficient for evaluation. A team employed a technique known as DNA sense to enhance unusable DNA samples through purification and concentration. Lennon stated that the scientists were unable to determine the origin of the DNA, whether it was from saliva, other bodily fluids, or touch. However, they were able to confirm that the likelihood of it not matching Tabak was less than 1 in a billion. After undergoing nearly 96 hours of questioning by different detectives, Vincent Tabak was officially charged with the murder of Joanna Yates on January 22, 2011. He made a brief appearance in Bristol's Magistrates' Court on January 24, 2011, and was subsequently detained in custody. Represented by Paul Cook, Tabak decided not to seek bail during a hearing the following day due to concerns for his safety. To prevent any self-harm, Tabak was transferred from Bristol Prison to Long Lartin Prison near Evesham, where he was placed under close observation. In the Netherlands, Tabak's family and friends initiated fundraising efforts to support his legal defense. Initially, Tabak maintained his innocence in Joanna Yates' death, alleging that corrupt officials had fabricated DNA evidence to implicate him in the crime. However, on February 8, 2011, he confided in Peter Brotherton, a prison chaplain, admitting to the murder and expressing his intention to plead guilty. Vincent Tabak, born on February 10, 1978, was a Dutch engineer who had been living and working in the United Kingdom since 2007. He was the youngest of 5 siblings and grew up in Uden, Netherlands, which is located 21 miles north of Eindhoven. According to John Messures, Tabak's childhood neighbor, he was an intelligent but introverted individual. Tabak began his studies at Eindhoven University of Technology in 1996, completing his MSc in Architecture, Building and Planning in 2003, before pursuing a PhD in the same field. After graduating from university in 2007, he moved to the United Kingdom to work at the headquarters of Bureau Happold, an engineering consultancy firm in Bath. Tabak took up residence in a flat within the town and assumed the role of a people flow analyst, primarily focusing on examining how individuals navigate through public spaces such as schools, airports, and sports stadiums. During his time in Bath, he formed a romantic relationship with a woman he initially encountered on The Guardian's online dating platform, Soulmates. The woman's identity remained undisclosed to the public, but she became Tabak's first serious girlfriend. In June 2009, the couple relocated to a flat on Canning Road in Bristol. Despite Joanna and her boyfriend, Greg, moving into the adjacent flat on Canning Road in October 2010, Tabak and Joanna did not cross paths until December 17, 2010. Following the murder of Joanna Yates, Tabak attempted to divert suspicion onto Jeffries by falsely implicating him in the crime. While spending the new year with relatives in the Netherlands, Tabak watched a news report about the case and decided to reach out to the Avon and Somerset police to ensure his own innocence. In order to protect himself, he framed Jeffries and claimed that Jeff had used his car on the night of December 17, 2010. In response, Officer Karen Thomas was dispatched to Amsterdam to interview Tabak. They arranged to meet at Amsterdam Schiphol Airport on December 31, 2010, where Tabak provided further details about his account. However, Thomas grew suspicious of his excessive interest in the forensic work conducted by the police, and his narrative did not align with a previous statement he had given to Officer Thomas. It was also discovered that, in the months leading up to Joanna's murder, Tabak had utilized his computer during business trips in the United Kingdom and the United States to research escort agencies. He had also made contact with several escorts via phone. Furthermore, for his own gratification, he had viewed violent videos on the internet depicting women being controlled by men. Additional search results from Tabak's internet history led the detectives to websites featuring images of women being bound, gagged, held by the neck, and choked. Additionally, while investigating the murder, the police came across photographs of a woman who bore a striking resemblance to Joanna. In one particular image, the woman was seen removing her pink top. Interestingly, when Joanna's body was discovered, she was found wearing a similar pink top. On January 31, 2011, the pathologist Nat Carey authorized the release of Joanna Yates's body to her family. A funeral was organized by her relatives at St. Mark's Church in Ampfield, Hampshire, and she was finally laid to rest in the churchyard on February 11, 2011. Approximately 300 individuals attended the service to bid farewell to their beloved Joanna, vowing to keep her in their prayers forever. On March 4, 2011, Christopher Jeffries, Joanna's landlord, was released from prison. The police cleared him of any involvement in Joanna's murder, declaring him no longer a suspect in the case. He later received an undisclosed amount in libel damages for defamatory news articles that were published after his arrest. Avon and Somerset police issued an apology for any distress caused to him during the investigation. On May 5, 2011, Vincent Tabak pleaded guilty to the manslaughter of Joanna Yates, but denied the charge of murder. All of his hearings have been conducted via video calls from prison, but on September 20, 2011, Tabak personally appeared at a pre-trial hearing at Bristol Crown Court. The Crown Prosecution Service rejected his plea for manslaughter. Vincent Tabak's murder trial began on October 4, 2011, at the Crown Court in Bristol, with Mr. Justice Field and a jury presiding over the proceedings. William Clegg, Queen's Counsel, served as Tabak's defense counsel, while Nigel Lickley, Queen's Counsel, acted as the prosecutor. Tabak once again admitted to manslaughter, but denied the charge of murder. According to the prosecution, Tabak had strangled Joanna Yates shortly after she arrived home on the night of December 17, 2010, using enough force to cause her death. The prosecution emphasized that Tabak, who was notably taller than Joanna, utilized his height and physical strength to subdue her. Allegedly, he held her down on the ground by her wrists, resulting in 43 distinct injuries that were not initially disclosed to the public. Joanna sustained injuries to her head, neck, torso, and arms during the altercation, including cuts, bruises, and a fractured nose. Prosecutors contended that the confrontation was prolonged and her death would have been slow and agonizing. However, they did not provide a motive for Tabak's initial attack. Evidence presented in court suggested that Tabak tried to conceal the crime by disposing of Joanna's body. DNA swabs from her body matched Tabak's profile, and fibers from behind Joanna's knees indicated she may have been carried by her legs. Fibers from Tabak's coat and car were found on Joanna's body, and bloodstains were discovered near a quarry where Joanna's body was located. The prosecution also accused Tabak of attempting to frame Christopher Jeffries, Joanna's landlord, for the murder. Furthermore, Tabak allegedly searched the internet for information on body decomposition and trash collection schedules in the Clifton area following Joanna's death. During the trial, prosecutor Nigel Lickley argued that evidence of Tabak's actions could shed light on the force and duration required to take a life. The prosecution did not disclose Tabak's internet search history, as the judge deemed it insufficient to prove premeditation. Tabak admitted to killing Joanna, but claimed it was not motivated by indecent intentions. He testified in court that his intention was not to kill Joanna Yates, but rather to silence her when she screamed as he attempted to kiss her. According to Tabak, Joanna had flirtatiously made a comment and invited him for a drink. He claimed that in response to her scream, he placed his hands over her mouth and around her neck in an attempt to quiet her. Tabak denied any struggle, stating that he held Joanna by the neck with minimal force for approximately 20 seconds. He informed the court that after disposing of her body, he was overwhelmed with panic and unable to comprehend his actions. The jury began deliberating on October 26, 2011, and reached a verdict just 2 days later. On October 28, 2011, Tabak was found guilty of murdering Joanna Yates by a majority verdict of 10-2. He received a life sentence with a minimum term of 20 years. Following the trial, it was discovered that Tabak's laptop contained sensitive images of children. In December 2013, the Crown Prosecution Service announced his prosecution for possessing these images. On March 2, 2015, Tabak pleaded guilty to possessing over 100 indecent images of children and received a 10-month prison sentence, which would run concurrently with his existing life sentence for Joanna's murder. Meanwhile, during Tabak's trial, there was another controversy that garnered significant media attention. Due to the British media's reporting on certain aspects of Joanna's case, independent television news was temporarily banned from participating in press conferences related to the matter. This ban was imposed after a television news report on January 4, 2011, criticized the detectives and suggested limited progress in the police investigation. Although the police later lifted the sanctions against independent television news, they cautioned that similar tactics in the future would not be tolerated. In an article published by the Evening Standard on January 5, 2011, Roy Greenslade, a media commentator, expressed his growing concern regarding a series of derogatory articles aimed at Christopher Jeffries, the landlord of Joanna Yates, immediately following his arrest. These articles, which had already appeared in various newspapers, led many readers to believe that Jeffries was indeed guilty. Greenslade described this media coverage as a widespread character assassination and highlighted specific instances that exemplified this trend. One such example was a headline in The Sun, which depicted Jeffries, a retired schoolmaster from Clifton College, as eccentric, upper-class, indecent, and unsettling. The Daily Express featured a story quoting former students who remained anonymous, labeling Jeffries as a nutty professor whose peculiar behavior made them uncomfortable. Additionally, the Daily Telegraph reported that students had described Jeffries as a fan of dark and violent avant-garde films. Jeffries stated that reporters had hounded him after his police questioning, launching a frenzied campaign to tarnish his reputation by publishing a series of entirely false allegations against him. He further asserted that it was evident that the tabloid press had already deemed him guilty of Joanna's murder and were determined to convince the public of his guilt. In response to this perceived media onslaught, Jeffries initiated legal action on April 21, 2011, against multiple newspaper companies, seeking compensation for defamation. On July 29, 2011, Jeffries reached an agreement to receive substantial damages for the harm caused to his reputation by all the newspaper companies involved. Additionally, the court ruled that 2 specific newspapers had committed contempt of court. Consequently, the Daily Mirror was fined £50,000, while the Sun faced a fine of £18,000. Ultimately, this marked a victory for Jeffries.
Jennifer O'Brien's routine visit to her parents' house in Park Hill, Calgary, Canada, takes a horrifying turn. As she enters the house, she is met with a chilling scene: an open front door, pools of blood, and an absence of her family. Adding to the horror, she discovers a child's blood-stained handprint on the wall. Park Hill, known for its serene surroundings and community charm, is a picturesque neighborhood, with tree-lined streets and well-maintained residences. It offers a welcoming atmosphere and convenient amenities, making it an ideal location for families like the Lickness family. Alvin Lickness, a beloved grandfather and father, had recently retired and was excited about the new chapter in his life. Kathy, his wife, was not only a devoted spouse, but also a close friend to their daughter. Her nurturing and caring nature created a loving home for the family. After living in Park Hill for many years, Alvin and Kathy decided to downsize and organized an estate sale before moving to their new home in Edmonton. Amidst the busyness of the sale, they found solace in the presence of their daughter, Jennifer, and her sons, including the cheerful Nathan. Nathan, a 5-year-old with tousled blonde hair, brought immense joy to the family with his love for superhero costumes and lively spirit. Nathan's amiable nature made him an intrepid explorer, forging connections and spreading joy wherever he ventured. While the brothers and their mother were spending time at their grandparents' house, as the day transitioned into night, Jennifer decided to stay overnight. However, Nathan's younger brother, Max, struggled to settle in an unfamiliar bed. Jennifer made the choice to take Max back home, leaving Nathan to sleep beside her mother. The plan was to retrieve him the following morning. On June 30th, 2014, Jennifer arrived at her parents' residence to pick up Nathan, only to be confronted with a chilling sight: the front door wide open and a haunting scent of death lingering in the air. As she entered, a distressing scene unfolded before her eyes, with pools of blood and the shocking absence of her parents and son. In a state of panic, she immediately contacted her husband, frantically explaining that her family had been murdered and their bodies taken. Overwhelmed with hysteria, she then dialed the police. Fearing that someone might still be inside, Jennifer hurried to her car and secured all the doors. The police promptly arrived, swiftly entering the horrifying scene. They conducted an exhaustive search throughout the house, yet no bodies were found. Subsequently, an Amber Alert was issued, initiating a thorough search for the trio. Law enforcement began by gathering DNA samples from both the Lickness and O'Brien residences. Furthermore, they expressed their intention to interview approximately 200 individuals who had attended the estate sale. During the meticulous search for forensic evidence within the house, investigators made a significant breakthrough: the discovery of a tooth that potentially belonged to Alvin Lichtness. Subsequent DNA analysis of the blood found at the residence, including on a set of 45-pound dumbbells in the garage, confirmed a match with the genetic material of the three missing individuals. The grandparents and young Nathan were nowhere to be found. Despite the exhaustive investigation, no trace of DNA or fingerprints belonging to a potential perpetrator was found at the crime scene. The disappearance quickly gained national attention, partly due to the heartfelt public appeal made by Jennifer and Rod O'Brien on Tuesday, July 2, 2014. For several weeks, the police held on to hope, hoping to find the missing individuals alive, speculating that the injuries sustained in the house may not have been fatal. However, despite an extensive search during that time, no bodies were discovered. It became increasingly clear that this was not a case of abduction, but rather a more sinister scenario: a triple murder with a dangerous killer still on the loose. Shortly after the public appeal, the police department was inundated with over 1,300 tips, overwhelming their computer system. Investigators meticulously reviewed extensive surveillance footage and uncovered a suspicious pattern. A vehicle was repeatedly seen circling the area on the night of the disappearance. Video footage captured an individual lurking outside the Lichtness residence, and in the early hours of June, a pickup truck was spotted heading north, with a noticeable white object in its truck bed. Law enforcement distributed a flyer featuring a photo of the F-150 Ford pickup truck seen on the grandparents' street that fateful night. Soon after, a woman came forward and identified the truck. Patty Garland was certain that she had seen that exact F-150 Ford pickup truck before. A remarkably similar one had been parked outside her parents' house when she visited the day before, having traveled from Evansburg, Alberta, accompanied by her common-law partner, Alan Lichtness, whose parents and nephew were now missing. The owner of the truck turned out to be Patty's brother, Douglas Garland, who had a history of previous convictions and had been arrested on his farm in 1992 for operating a meth lab. Following his apprehension, he fled to British Columbia and adopted the identity of a deceased Alberta teenager. Living under this false identity, he resided there for 7 years, even receiving unemployment benefits. In 2000, he was captured by authorities, resulting in a 6-month sentence for drug trafficking and identity theft. Psychologists attributed his actions to mental illness, classifying him as essentially non-violent. Fast forward to July 2014, Douglas Garland was detained by authorities during a routine traffic stop, leading to his custody for interrogation. An extensive search of Garland's property was immediately authorized while he was being questioned, due to concerns that the Lichtness and Nathan might still be alive and in imminent danger. The search was conducted without a warrant, justified by urgent circumstances. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police Emergency Response Team, treating the situation as a potential rescue operation, was the first to arrive on the scene in an armored vehicle. However, no individuals were found on the premises. Garland was granted bail under strict conditions at the police station, with explicit instructions prohibiting his return to the farm. Simultaneously, law enforcement obtained a warrant to thoroughly search the vast property. In the basement, they discovered books and manuals containing disturbing content. Further searches revealed boxes filled with handcuffs, some designed for children. Additional findings included hacksaw blades, leather straps, bone saws, knives, firearms, and a straitjacket. Authorities also came across a computer hard drive and a still smoldering burn barrel on the property. However, no bodies were found. Garland violated the bail conditions by returning to his home, unaware that Calgary police were monitoring him. It was suspected that he was attempting to dispose of more evidence. His arrest occurred as he moved through a dense forest, with a police helicopter circling above. In spite of the lack of discovered bodies, Douglas Garland was confronted with a multitude of charges, which included 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of second-degree murder, supported by a staggering 1,400 pieces of the most gruesome evidence imaginable. One eerie clue that stood out among the disturbing evidence was the smoldering burn barrel that was initially noticed during the first search of the farm. Investigators opted to conduct a more thorough examination. While sifting through the ashes, they stumbled upon a shocking discovery: a baby tooth, burnt flesh, and numerous bone fragments in the embers of the burning barrel. Further investigations unveiled that Douglas Garland had a complex and intertwined history with Alvin and Kathy Likeness that spanned several years. Patty Garland, the sister who reported the truck, happened to be married to Lickness's son. A significant detail that caught the investigators' attention was Alvin Lickness's previous employment of Douglas Garland years ago. When Alvin was in search of a working partner, Patty's husband had recommended Douglas as a potential candidate. Garland, possessing some education and practical skills, collaborated with Alvin on a pump invention. However, the project failed to materialize, leading to Alvin's decision to terminate Garland's employment. This dismissal fueled Garland's deep-seated resentment, which eventually escalated into a bitterness that appeared to culminate in a heinous act of murder. Garland pleaded not guilty to the 3 murder charges, initiating a sensational 5-week trial that gripped the nation. The day before their disappearance, Alvin and Kathy were hosting an estate sale as part of their downsizing plans. It was on this day that Garland put his sinister plan into action. In the early hours of the morning, Garland broke into the Likeness residence by drilling a hole into the locks, allowing the door to open easily. While the family was asleep, he entered the grandparents' room, where he found Alvin sleeping. He proceeded to strike him multiple times before moving on to the spare bedroom. A police sergeant provided testimony that DNA from Nathan and his grandmother was discovered in the spare room of the residence. Due to the significant blood saturation on the bed, it was suggested that Kathy likely experienced a blunt impact, although the exact cause could not be definitively determined. In regards to Nathan, the officer could only confirm the presence of a bloodletting injury. Despite the presence of blood, forensic experts believed that the family was still alive when Garland removed them from the home and placed them in the truck. Surprisingly, Garland did not leave any DNA traces behind. It was revealed that Garland had been researching methods to avoid leaving DNA evidence. Subsequently, he brought the family to the Airdrie residence where tragic events unfolded. During the trial, a forensic lab expert testified that DNA matching Kathy Likeness was found on a meat hook at the location. DNA belonging to Alvin Likeness and Nathan O'Brien was identified on a hacksaw. Genetic material from all 3 victims was discovered on a pair of rubber boots outside one of the outbuildings on the Garland farm. Furthermore, a bloodied light switch inside the building matched the DNA profiles of both Likeness family members. Constable Doug Cron, a forensic computer expert, testified about his discovery of various documents related to violent acts. Among his findings were videos, including one focusing on the disturbing fetish of adult baby diapering. He also uncovered folders with names like Gore, containing 87 photos of deceased or dismembered individuals. Cron found documents discussing DNA removal techniques, emotionless killing, and an autopsy manual. Importantly, evidence was presented that Garland had been researching methods to pick locks on doors, similar to the tampered lock found at the Lickness family home. Additionally, deleted files on the hard drive contained photos of Kathy Lickness and her husband. During the trial, Douglas Garland's mother provided testimony against him, recounting an incident where she mentioned the Lickness family's disappearance after watching TV. In response, her son expressed his unwillingness to discuss the matter. Additionally, his sister Patty testified that she had her son photograph the pickup truck and sent the pictures to Alan Lickness, who then forwarded them to the Calgary police. Towards the end of the trial on Monday, February 6th, the Crown presented a crucial piece of evidence that they stumbled upon by sheer chance. At 9:23 a.m. on July 1st, 2014, a small aircraft from an aerial surveying company was conducting mapping activities over Airdrie, capturing photos every 3 seconds. In an astonishing twist of fate, 2 of these photos were introduced as evidence during the trial, solidifying the case against Douglas Garland. The images depicted 3 lifeless bodies lying face down near 3 sheds south of the main house. 2 of the bodies were clearly adults, partially clothed with white fabric wrapped around their waists. One was estimated to be around 6 feet 2 inches tall, while the other measured approximately 5 feet 5 inches. The prosecution suggested that the bodies may have been decapitated. The third body was much smaller, possibly aged between 2 to 4 years old, and appeared to be curled up on its side. The pilot who operated the plane testified that when he flew over the farm again 26 hours later, subsequent photos revealed the absence of the bodies. In this tragic case, the silence of the deceased resonates profoundly. No complete remains were left behind, only tiny fragments. The only evidence confirming their existence on this earth was buried within the ashes lingering inside the burn barrel. In that particular location, investigators made a chilling discovery: a solitary piece of flesh that could potentially be linked to Alvin Lickness. Among the remains were bone fragments that indicated the presence of a 5-year-old boy. It seems that the perpetrator, after dismembering the bodies, proceeded to incinerate them, a grim and haunting process reminiscent of cremation. Douglas Garland, the individual convicted of killing Nathan O'Brien and his grandparents, Alvin and Kathy Lickness, received the harshest possible sentence: 3 consecutive 25-year terms with no chance of parole for 75 years. The impact of the harrowing events that unfolded in the Lickness O'Brien case was profound, not only on the families directly affected, but also on the community at large. The loss of Alvin, Kathy, and young Nathan O'Brien left an immeasurable void. The aftermath of such a tragedy reverberates not only within the confines of the courtroom, but also within the hearts of those who knew and loved them. In the face of unimaginable grief, Nathan O'Brien's parents, Rod and Jennifer, managed to find a way to channel their pain into something positive. They established the Nathan O'Brien Children's Foundation, a beacon of hope committed to making a difference in the lives of underprivileged children. Privately funded and driven by the memory of Nathan O'Brien, the foundation extends a helping hand to various children's charities. Their mission is crystal clear: to honor Nathan's legacy of compassion and kindness by providing opportunities for children to embrace hope and pursue their dreams. For Rod and Jennifer O'Brien, preserving Nathan's spirit and keeping his memory alive is of utmost importance. The foundation collaborates with other dedicated charities, forming a community that strives to create a positive impact on the world.